Hey guys, welcome to the Neglected Podcast. This podcast is not to change your mind, but to invite you into somebody else's narrative. This is a podcast to give a voice to the neglected. It is also an opportunity for all of us to engage.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Neglected Podcast. My name is Nick Schultz. You can hit me up at Schultzy Time. We are at For the Neglected. We are here at City Church, and my man Quinn is producing. Thank you, Quinn, like always, for being here. We have a special guest today. His name is Andre Murray. What's up, man? How you doing?
Nothing much, man. How you doing today?
I'm doing all right, man. This is like a special once-in-a-lifetime Saturday recording of the Neglected Podcast just for you, man. So I'm excited.
I appreciate it. I've been really trying to do this for a while. So thank you for working with my schedule and everything. So
no problem, man. And you know, Quinn's been mentioning your name for a while, so that's kind of how I got connected to you. Is Quinn. You and Quinn worked together and known each other for a little while, and he's like, man, Andre, he's got some to share, and I think it'd be really good for the podcast. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. And Quinn was finally like, hey, give me a Saturday, let's do it, and we're doing it. So I appreciate you being here, man, and looking forward to the conversation. Already appreciate the hat. It's already good so far, man.
Yeah.
But like always, when we start, we just kind of go with little Andre, man. Like where you grew up, what the culture environment was, the family environment, and what's that picture of your life and what was going on.
Born in 1980, Savannah, Georgia. Pretty much been here all my life. Grew up on the east side, single mother. Didn't know my dad. I don't think I met my dad until I was 33, I believe.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's pretty much just my mother and my grandmother and grandfather, and a couple other family. But a lot of family stayed out of town, so pretty much was my mother and my grandmother for the most part, and my sister. So that was it. Got into sports and played sports. Just hung around the neighborhood, east side. So seen a lot of things, drug activities, and crime and stuff like that. But mother did a good job of trying to instill me in the right direction to keep me away from that type of lifestyle. But once you get a little older, you dabble in it a little, since that's the area you grew up in. So it seems more normal or more natural than anything. So it was just everyday living for the most part.
So what was the life like growing up without a dad? Did you have other men that stepped in and filled that role, or was that a big void in your life from either early on up to teenage years?
I don't think it was a void, because he wasn't there, so it wasn't like it was. I felt like I was missing something because I never had it.
Yeah.
So my granddaddy did a good job. He the one introduced me to sports, and my uncle tried to be around as much as possible also. But other than that, I think those were the only two men I had in my life for the most part. But missing my daddy, I just never gave it much thought for the most part. I didn't allow it to affect me, I guess you could put it that way. My mother did everything she can, so I was cool with it. It wasn't like I was lacking. She did, I'm sure we struggled, but she did what she could to not show us that she struggled. So missing a daddy just wasn't nothing. And unfortunately, it's a common thing in our community, so wasn't like I seen somebody else family like, dang, I wish I had my daddy. So just was nothing.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful, man. And you said you were over on the east side of Savannah, and diversity wise, was it reflected in neighborhood as it was in the schools you were going to, or is it just predominantly black?
Yeah, it's predominantly black. Be honest, I don't think I could think of a white neighbor I had.
Really?
Yeah, I think everywhere I stayed pretty much was all black.
So is that all the way through like high school too?
Pretty much, yes. Yeah, I can't recall any, to be honest.
Oh wow, man, that's fascinating. So like, give me from what you can remember when you were younger, whether it's grade school, high school, like, what was your thoughts on like race then?
Didn't have one.
Didn't see it, so didn't even.
Yeah. No, it wasn't that. Of course, in school I saw them and it was cool. I had friends that I considered were, white males that I considered friends, in school. But as far as just the neighborhood, it just wasn't none around. So I don't know if you want to call it like two separate lifestyles, a school life and a home life. But in school, it was fine and didn't think nothing about it. Of course, I wasn't probably paying attention to news or anything like that brought along, say, racial type stuff. So
yeah,
it was just okay seeing a white person in school with just a friend or a companion or just hey and bye or whatever the case was. But it was never no type of envy or hatred towards them because I didn't know them.
And you didn't ever feel any issues either from like a racial standpoint from anybody? It was just
not that I can recall.
Cool.
Yeah, not that I can recall. I think everything was normal living. I didn't have no issues.
Good. Especially with the stuff that's going on in the news now in our country too. I just I always wonder when I talk with my black friends, especially when they grow up, just how they're, in your case, your mom or your grandpa, like, did they ever prepare you for things you needed to know about growing up or being a black man, whether it was like police related or anything? It was just...
I wish. No, but considering what happened, I probably wish they would have. It probably would have helped. But I don't think that was a conversation I ever had with nobody for the most part. Maybe once I got probably in high school, there was a conversation I had amongst my friends.
Yeah.
So we'll know how to, try to handle situations but other than that, like parents or mentors or anything, I don't think nobody ever came to me like, hey, such and such is going on in the world, so you need to be careful. Never had that conversation. To me, I don't think it was how it is now. Like, now it seems like you definitely have to have that conversation if you have a kid, probably regardless of whatever race they are. But
that's a good point.
I don't think, I really didn't have no issues with police. I don't think I was ever introduced to police until high school. That's when I first started having issues or run-ins with them.
And was it, when you're looking back on when you say issues and run-in, was it something like you were specifically doing that was illegal, or was it like just profiling, or like you're with a group of black men?
Group of black men, growing up in the areas, they put out their drug checkpoints, but that was like our hangout spot. It was a drug-infested area, but doesn't mean everybody's in the area selling drugs. Right. And so sometimes they'll come and just because we're hanging there, want to search us and everything. So, that was my first run-ins with them when they started doing stuff like that to, me and my friends. Prior to that, then never had an issue with them. So, that was annoying because, like, here they come again. And, so it was sickening. But I guess there was also, they were doing their job, so I can't, knock them for that part, but just wish that they would be more aware of who the players are and who just, the bystanders, just growing up in that environment and not actually living that lifestyle.
So do you think they know a lot of times who the players are and where to really look, but it's just like, hey, you're here so we can kind of do what we want to do?
Yeah, because, just because you not living it or active in it doesn't mean that you're probably not partaking in it somehow or some way, either being a user or just running an errand for your friend because he doing it. So, if they could catch you that way and probably get you to maybe turn on them, I'm sure that goes all into it, but it just, for the most part, none of my friends did nothing like that. So it was just sickening when they came around just because that's the area we stayed in. But I understood because the sign was like literally like right in front of us, but still, like y'all know it's us for the most part. And not one time have y'all found anything on us. So why almost every time y'all come like straight to us. Yeah.
Well, if you didn't see maybe friends, taken to prison or arrested or anything like that, did you see a lot of people you knew in the neighborhood or like witness people going away for a long time?
Yeah. Bank robbers, drug dealers, or, gunfights. I seen it. Street fights. I seen it all. So I knew a lot of people who went to jail. I don't think nobody like super close to me ever went, but, just in the circle of the neighborhood, I seen people go.
And how close were you to going as well? I know we're going to talk about something when you were 18, but when you were under 18, were there instances where you were wrong place, wrong time, and almost thought you were going to get in trouble for something you weren't doing? Or
nah, nope. Like I said, none of my friends never did. I'm not going to lie and say none of us as a whole group never dabbled in maybe nickeling and diming. Yeah. But outside of that, well, Maybe one time, now that I think about it. I mean, it was a bad situation, but I don't think the police never responded to it or anything. I mean, we actually got in a shootout. And I don't think the police ever came to the area at all.
Wow.
Other than that, nothing ever happened to us. So we was good.
So what was the plan then going through high school and getting out? Is there something you wanted to do when you got older or something you wanted to do after high school or?
I mean, you know, growing up, I played sports a lot, so I wanted to dabble in sports, but honestly, saw my body didn't cooperate with that, and I was a little too short for the most part for my main passion was football, so I kind of gave it up once I got in high school. I let my friends talk me joining the band, so got in the band and going through high school and with classes, nothing never really stuck out to me, and then finally accounting kind of did, so because I did like math a lot, and that would be the only subject I actually did my work in sometimes. I do all my math work and something that's probably related to it, like chemistry, but anything else, I would just do enough just to make sure I was passing. So kind of stuck with accounting after I ended up taking an accounting class, so that was going to be my plan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let's segue there. That was going to be my plan, and then you know what actually kind of happened to derail that plan?
Right after graduation, I actually graduated, I can't remember the date, but it was May 26th or something like that. So the following week,
what year did you graduate high school?
1998.
Okay, I was 99.
From Savannah High in 98. All right. Yeah. And so a couple of weeks after that, I ended up getting pulled over. And, you know, they asked for your license and everything, all that type of stuff, and gave them my license. And I was in the car with a friend, so noticed the officer never come back to the car. So we started asking each other, like, what you did? Because they took both of our license. And, of course, neither one of us did anything. So, you know, we in the car laughing, joking about it. Next thing you know, I noticed a detective car pulling up. So we really like, you sure you ain't did nothing? And, like, next thing I know, I was escorted. They didn't give me back my license. The police car was in the front, the detective car was behind us, and they escorted us down to the precinct on Havisham Street. And
you know why at this point?
I think they told me my car was involved in a robbery, is what they told me. And when I said earlier, I wish somebody would have told me about dealing with stuff like that. So nobody never did. So I went along with it, knowing that I didn't do anything. So I went down there and talked to them. And voluntarily allowed them to take pictures of me and the car because I knew I didn't do nothing, so I'm not thinking nothing about it.
You didn't realize you didn't have to do that or could have
I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know. Like, today, even in my innocence, I would not cooperate to do anything like that. I would strictly just say, you know, call my lawyer or whatever, but I'm not volunteering for nothing like that. I don't care what the case is. After going through that situation, just wouldn't do it.
So you get taken down there, and then what happens?
They let me go home, of course, and being that I still knew I didn't do anything, I didn't think I even said nothing to my mama about it until I think they contacted me again. It was like they needed me to come back down there, and then I finally said something to her about it, like, hey, mama, you know, told her what happened, and I told her they need me to come down to the station again. They want to interview me again, and so she was like, all right, let's go. So we went, and so we went down there. They do the interview, steady asking about it. So what supposedly happened was a middle-aged white guy was in the Ardsley Park area walking down the street. Two young black males ran up on him and held him at gunpoint, patted him down. He didn't have nothing, so they left. That was it. And so supposedly he saw me 2 days after it happened leaving. He was leaving the cleaners on, I think that's 58th and Waters, right on the corner. And I was actually coming down 58th, and he said he saw me. And so he got my tag number and gave it to the police at some point. He didn't call that day, but at some point he gave it to the police. And so that's how they pulled me over when they finally did pull me over, was from when he finally did get on my tag number. Wow. And so it happened at like 9:30 at night, so it wasn't like it was broad daylight where he saw somebody clearly. And at the time, I had a box Chevy Caprice, so that was 98. And in 98, that was a very common car for the urban area like almost everybody wanted one, or either the Oldsmobile or the Pontiac Parisian. All of them pretty much look alike. So it wasn't like it was just say a Ferrari or something where you know it distinctly and you know that's just the car. So so back to when I went down there, we talked for a while, and for whatever reason, I could not remember what I did the actual day it happened. I could not remember, but still, I knew I didn't do that. And so they had me down there a long time, and finally they let me go again.
And you're only 18 at this point too.
Yes, I'm only 18.
That's got to be like nerve-wracking.
Very. Yes. No. Yes, I was only 18. Like I said, just graduated high school. In the process of going to college. I signed on with Savannah State, so I was in the process of, getting everything together for that. And so, I'm at a big crossroads, not knowing if what's going to happen with this, or even if I should go to college, because I wasn't focused on it. So not too much later, one night I was home, and here come the whole squad at the door. I was in the bed. I rolled over and looked. They in the door, guns drawn, everything.
What the heck?
Yeah, and I hear my stepdaddy arguing with them because they trying to look over the whole house, and he was like, "No, y'all can't." But like I said, I'm only 18, so I don't know what's going on. And I'm talking about, they was super deep too. And at this age, understanding crimes and looking at what happened, even if just say I did do that, I don't think everything that proceeded was necessary, because I know it's bad for somebody to get held at gunpoint, don't get me wrong, but being that he wasn't hurt, nothing was taken from him, so I didn't understand why y'all was being so serious. Why was y'all so determined to take me down for something that seemingly was small at the time.
That you didn't even do.
Yeah.
In your mind.
Yeah, especially that I didn't even do.
Jeez.
And so got locked up, of course, was in the county for a week. They denied my bond, had to go through a bond hearing. Finally bonded out. And then when I bonded out, still my mama pushed me trying to go to school, because she was like, it'll be good if you was in school when you go to court. And I'm like, man, school is the last thing on my mind right now. So I actually went, but I wasn't really doing no work. I think I was failing probably every class because I just wasn't focused at all.
And you have a lawyer at this point?
Yes. Well, I don't know if I had one at that point.
So who's advising you though? Is it just your mom and family? Here's
pretty
what you
much,
should do?
because I still didn't talk to no lawyer. I don't recall talking to a lawyer or anything, because I don't even recall really being aware of the bond hearing. I just knew I had it, and it was scheduled a week after I got locked up, in the county jail. And I'm assuming they got them after I bonded out. And
so you get bonded out, and then how long is it until you go back for another? Did you go for another hearing? Or what are you waiting on to happen after you get bonded out and going to school?
Well, in the midst of all of that, I did actually get arrested again for a shoplifting charge. And once I did that, they revoked my bond, because they put me in a pretrial program, which basically is like probation before getting sentenced. They supervise you. You have to call in on a regular and so forth. So they revoked my bond for that. And so after that, I never got out again.
And just to go back to the shoplifting thing, was that just something that got caught on before? Or was it your mind is all messed up at this point, and you're not sure what you're doing in life kind of thing?
I have no excuse, no explanation for it.
Just happened.
Yeah. Say what happened. I actually went into Best Buy, and it was around the time of my mom's birthday in October. And think I stole a CD for her birthday gift. Why? Like I said, I don't know. And I just did it. And that didn't work out. Apparently I wasn't skilled enough, so so that didn't work out, and they revoked my bond. So I called I actually bonded out from that, and probably shouldn't have called the pretrial supervisor, but my mama forced me to call in. So she was like, we're going to revoke your bond. And I was like, yeah. So I can't remember exactly how long that took, but it wasn't too long after that. And so I pretty much had to turn myself into the county jail. And so once I did that, I didn't get out again until I was let out from everything else.
Let out.
Meaning
How many years is that?
8.5 years.
Okay. So, I mean, there's a lot of questions that go in between this where, you get either way. Were you going to serve 8.5 if you didn't do shoplifting? Did that just like...
Well, nothing was talked about because it's like I said, the initial thing, I guess, kicked off in like June. And so this is in October once the shoplifting and everything. So that's when I went back in the county. So I haven't had no contact with them between June and October. Nothing was talked about, nothing. So I don't know what was going to happen.
So what did you get charged? Did you take a plea deal? Did they charge you? Like, what was the actual crime?
No, they was trying to give me a deal, but I was innocent, so I wasn't taking it.
Right.
So the charge at first was aggravated assault. No, actually, the charge at first was robbery, but being nothing was taken, they dropped it down to aggravated assault. And during the course of actually going to trial, my lawyer's trying to get them to drop it down to simple assault, because actually by law, simple assault is what applies, because nothing was taken and you only put the gun out on somebody. Even though they can technically charge you with aggravated assault for brandishing a firearm, but in most cases they would drop it down, and that seemed like it should apply under that circumstances, but they wouldn't do it.
And is your lawyer, is that like someone you guys hired? Was it just an appointed lawyer?
He was a paid lawyer.
He was.
I don't think he did his best job, but he was a paid lawyer.
Yeah, that's what I mean, I don't know all everything, but it's just like you 8.5 years, and like for you, you're saying like you didn't do anything.
But the sentence was actually 12 years.
Man.
They actually gave me 12 years for that.
So you got out on like good behavior?
That's just the biggest myth or TV thing. Well, at least it doesn't happen in Georgia. Georgia has a parole board that is, I would say Georgia's parole board is corrupt or the worst because their policies are crazy.
So you're expecting to serve 12?
Well, they gave me a 12 to 10, so I'm under the parole board's guidelines. You have to serve 90%. So I was expecting to do 9 years for, just say if I did it, for just pulling the gun out on somebody. Well, actually, I wasn't the gunman. It was two people. So I was the one who patted them down, basically. And but they never found nobody else. Once they got me, that was it. They didn't never look for nobody else. I don't think they did a good job investigating the case. I just think they went off of his thing because they gave him a photo lineup. Going through the trial, I saw the photo lineup, and there was 6 people. So they said I had a necklace on. So I had on pretty much, just say I had on this shirt, a collar shirt. It was blue in my picture, and I had a gold rope on. And so the person who did it had a necklace too. So in my photo lineup was 6 pictures. I was the only picture that had a necklace on. And so when I seen it and told my lawyer about it, so he mentioned it, the DA came back and said, oh, that's a part of my shirt. Like, you talking about a blue shirt and a gold necklace. How is that a part of my shirt? And just the fact that I'm the only one in the picture with the necklace on. So it was all bad to me. Was there a jury or was it just the judge? Yes, I went to jury trial. I mean, they tried to get me to do the open-ended plea, which is throwing yourselves on the mercy of the judge, and he could just give you whatever he want to give you. Mm-hmm. But again, I was innocent, so I wasn't taking no plea deal. And I think the only deal they was trying to give me was 10 years. So I wasn't trying to do that. I wasn't trying to go on the open-ended plea. So only option to me was taking it to trial. And again, I know I'm innocent, so I'm like, once everything comes out, like the jury will see I'm innocent and I go home. I had a 3-day jury trial, and I didn't go home.
Dang, man. Did you testify?
Nah, my lawyer said I shouldn't for whatever reason. I don't know, but I wish I would have, knowing what I know now, just going through the whole system. I wish I would have.
At any point during this time before, like, you actually get a guilty plea, are you thinking, like, I'm innocent, I'm going to be innocent, they've got to see this? Or is part of you preparing yourself to be potentially guilty and go to jail? What are you going through mentally through all this?
A little half and half. It took actually a year before I actually went to court. So I was in the county jail a whole year before I actually went to court. So they threw the shoplifting charge out. So, that was one less thing I had to worry about. But I'm still, worrying about this. And talking to the lawyer and everything. And so it was half and half. At that time, I didn't have no thoughts of the justice system because I never dealt with it firsthand and knew nobody who dealt with it firsthand. I just seen like secondhand stuff of stuff happening in the community. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have no thoughts about it. So, but just being in the county for a year and seeing like what people went through, it was half and half.
It's just hard for me to get my mind around it
yes. It's still
go to prison, go to trial, get arrested, anything for something you didn't do, and how that doesn't just like mess with your mind. I mean, we haven't even talked about what your time was in prison. I mean, we'll hop into that in a second, but just that moment where you're told you're guilty and it's for something you didn't do, and now the kind of the prime time of your young adult life has gone for something that you weren't even a part of. Like I can't imagine what that's actually like.
It was rough. Going through the 3 days and listening to the stuff that Will said, hearing like the relationships of, I think the detective and the victim actually went to church together or something like that. And, just hearing so much stuff, and I'm just shaking my head. And like, as this unfolding, I was beginning to actually feel like this not looking good, because just hearing the stuff that was said, like you seen the photo line up. Like I said, I'm the only one with a necklace on in the picture. Mm-hmm. Hearing the dead lying saying it's my shirt, part of my shirt. Like, that's clear that's not a part of my shirt. Mm-hmm. And why am I the only one with the necklace on in the lineup if the guy supposedly had a necklace on? So once I got sentenced, I think what bothered me most was hearing my mama cry in the background. Mm-hmm. That's probably what bothered me the most. So, yeah, it was rough. And, them say that I'm about to do possibly 10 years of my life again for something that I didn't do. Mm. So it was hard. Well,
yeah, man, dude, don't blame you, man. Take your time. I just, like I said, I can't get my mind around it. And, it's very frustrating to hear. And, I've got, of course, my own assumptions or maybe even prejudices about like what that was like for you, and because of who you are and how people view you and things like that. And, I can't imagine sitting there in a trial. Like, are they trying to like paint a picture of you as like, hey, he's a bad person. This is the kind of people he hangs out with. And we know, he also shoplifter. He does these kind of things in life, and like.
But none of that really came up in trial. Like, none of that came up in trial. They didn't really ask no questions.
So it was just straight up like facts. Like, here's the guy. I saw him. Look, he's got the shirt. He's got the necklace.
Yeah.
The type of car I saw. And okay, they're trying to just make it cut and dry. They don't even have to like attack your character. It's just
they didn't
that's
really
the guy.
Do none of that. And in the process, my lawyer was trying to get them to give me probation. I don't know if the law is still the same, but I know the judge said in Georgia they only do 2 years supervised probation. And that's actually where the 12 years come from. They was only going to give me 10 years, but since the judge actually said, well, since you want the probation, I give you 2 more years, which is the 12 years, and just serve 10 years.
Wow. Was the jury diverse? When you saw the jury, did you think like that was a good thing for you or a bad thing for you?
I don't really remember, to be honest, but I didn't really give it much thought because, my thought was just that I'm innocent. So
yeah.
And again, I don't really know what's going on. So.
Yeah, I know it's so many questions to look back on, but like when you're 18 and
I didn't,
that kind of stuff's happening, and dang man, it makes me so frustrated for you. Yeah. All right, well let's jump into it then and just go into prison life. What that's
prison life really wasn't bad, to be honest. I'm not saying it was good. Don't get me wrong.
You don't want to go back, but
yeah, but it really wasn't bad. I mean, thank God I didn't go nowhere that was rough. Pretty much everywhere I went was low to medium security, so it wasn't like a lot of gang activity, wasn't a lot of fights, wasn't a lot of
you weren't scared for your safety?
Yeah, for the most part, no. So it wasn't bad. It was just being away from home and knowing that I shouldn't be here. Mm-hmm. And, you have your hopes of, maybe I get out on appeal or whatever the case is. And, as the days, the months, years goes and, you know, pills getting denied. So, you know, your hope is just dwindling and dwindling. So after a while, you just kind of lose hope. So, yeah.
We haven't talked about like faith or anything, but did that whole experience, whether it was, you know, right before you went to prison or like going into prison, did that change your views on, you know, what you believed in, you know, either faith, religion, or anything like that? How did that affect you?
Growing up, my mother and my grandma kept me in church. Once I got older, I had the option kind of either Sunday school or church. So I mainly picked Sunday school just so I could have the rest of the day to myself. So I didn't really apply it. When I was in the county jail, they had a chaplain's dorm, which was faith-based, well, mainly Christian faith-based. And eventually I ended up going there, and that's when I started applying it. And so, you know, we used to have a process of getting up at, I think, 6 in the morning, I want to say, and reading the daily bread and praying and reading Proverbs and all of that. And throughout the day, we had like a class and church services and everything. So, you know, I started applying it pretty hard during that time. So, and it's crazy. I was actually studying Revelations 2:10, and the verse said that some of you will have tribulation for 10 days. And just, you know, looking at the numbers of it, the 10 years, and that's actually what I was studying at the time that I got sentenced. And so I remember when I got back to the dorm, one of the brothers was like, "What happened?" I was like, "You know what we're studying? That's what happened." And he was like, "What you mean?" I like, "I got them 10 years, and not 10 days, but 10 years. And he was like, "You serious?" And I'm like, "Yeah," you know, but I didn't hate God or was mad at God.
Yeah.
So
I understand that.
I just, you know, sought after him, though, and that's what probably helped me through it, because pretty much everywhere I went, every prison I went to had a good church system, kind of, so to speak. And so, you know, I was involved, went to church on a regular, you know, studied on my own on a regular. So it kept me solidified, definitely did. And I mean, I wasn't lying or be remiss to say it didn't kept me protected also.
Yeah. Well, man, a couple things to follow up with, just being in prison there, and as you're getting closer to getting out, are you, you know, some people mention that they get so used to being in there that it's really scary to go out.
Oh, nah.
For you, you're ready?
Yeah.
Were you concerned about what you would be doing?
Yeah,
going
I was
out?
concerned. I was very concerned, because I didn't have no plan, because you got to think now, getting out, I would be 27 years old.
Yeah.
That's my whole childhood, well, my whole, you know, early 20s, really when your life is starting to unfold. You know, you starting to get solidified, find out who you are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I found out who I was, but in a different environment, and that's not an environment for anybody. Mm-hmm. You know, that's a terrible environment. And I don't know about now, because I don't really know nobody in the system, but during my time, Georgia doesn't have nothing to help you. I had a high school diploma, so it wasn't nothing they could do for me.
You're not, no reentry education or skill training, nothing like that?
Nothing. You just there wasting away. I mean, of course, you could get people to send you books and stuff like that, but other than that, you just there wasting away. You're around a bunch of people who, for the most part, is sad, but they're plotting on how to do another crime. You know, you have two people who possibly robbed the bank, and they sitting around talking about what they did wrong and thinking about what they did right, and we're like, this is what we need to do the next time. So, you know, it's a terrible environment. I went to one place that was drug infested. I mean, probably every drug you could think of was there. Alcohol, I'm talking about real alcohol, not the prison-made alcohol. Like, it was bad. And they knew and didn't really care. Mm-hmm. You know, it was like a work camp, so they were actually coming in and tell us, like, in a way, like, we know what y'all doing, but just please get up and go to work. So it was bad. So you just there wasting away. So I didn't know what I was going to be doing. Like, I had no plan for the most part. I didn't know. I was totally lost when it came to that. Like I said, I was going to be 27, so I had no clue.
Yeah, I can't imagine. And the other side of it I wanted to ask you about too is just, I don't know what they call it, just like forgiveness or your views of people that put you there. Like, how do you either continue to carry that weight, and like, is there a point of forgiveness? Like, if I saw a person, or just even in my own heart or my mind, like, I don't want to think about it anymore, or I have to like let this go, or screw these people. They put me here and I'm innocent. And how do you live with that kind of weight?
I have mixed feelings. Overall, I have no ill will. I wish the detectives would have investigated better. I wish the guy wouldn't have been so stern and just picking me out. I wonder why sometimes, because I have my whole transcript, so I have his address. So at times I wanted to go to his house and ask him, like, why did you pick me? Like, what made you say me? But I know that probably wasn't a good idea. I seen my lawyer one time walking downtown. I wanted to go find him and ask him too, like, why didn't you do a better job? But overall, I don't have no ill will. I don't necessarily trust the police. I hate the prison system, not because of, I hate it because going through it, I see that they don't try to help you. And they constantly talk about, like rehabbing, but it's no way to rehab you if they're not doing nothing for you while you're in there. And I'm not saying that they're supposed to have it where it's made out where you're super comfortable, but it has to be something where you're mentally stimulating yourself and not just being stagnant and sort of kind of dying off. So, like, something has to go on. Like I said, only thing they have in there are GED programs and drug rehab programs and stuff like that. I wasn't on drugs, so I don't need none of that. I had a high school diploma, so GED was out the question. And, but yeah, I don't have a big ill will. It's actually overall, I think it's a motivation because I can't go back to there. And overall, that's not my lifestyle. That's not something that I do. But seeing what I went through, knowing that it can happen out of your control. So it's a motivation to never put myself back in that situation. It's a motivation to always, remember where I go at, remember where I've been, pay attention to your surroundings and stuff. But it's no major ill will, though.
Okay.
But I know some people who sort of kind of been through it, because you'd be surprised how many innocent people is in it, and they're on the other side of me, mad at the world, and I can understand it, but I just didn't want to take that route. I just stuck to my faith and just wanted to be a better person than become a product of the environment or becoming another statistic, which they want it, because when you look at the system, it's designed for you to fail. It's designed for you to go back, and I wasn't going back, so it's a motivation to just keep pushing.
Well, let's take it up on that part, at least when you did get out. So what is that day like, that moment like, of when you finally are released?
Man, it was a joy and a frustration. The frustration came from my sister. She was supposed to come pick me up, and I think you're allowed to leave. I think as early as either 7 or 8 o'clock. I don't think my sister came and got me till like 1 o'clock or something like that. So I'm like mad at her, but overall, it was a joy. But at the same time, the reality sets in is, now what? Because like I said, I don't have nothing. I did go to the halfway house, and I did have in the halfway house you work. So I was working, so I had, a little bit of money, but it wasn't like I really had, some money. But overall, I didn't have nothing. So then you gotta look at it. I'm 27, about to go stay with my mother. I mean, I understand the circumstances of why, but still, 27, living with my mother. Like, what am I about to do?
So how long did it take to get like a job that was better than the halfway house and get on your own feet? I
mean, I pretty much kept that job for I think a couple of months, and then I switched jobs, and I stayed with my mother for a year, got me an apartment, and been on the run since. It's been lovely. I can't complain. Have a decent job now, have a decent family, actually a deacon at Christ Memorial Baptist Church. Been married for 6 years, have a daughter that's 3 years old. My friends from back then, we're still friends. The unit is solid, great foundation. I mean, overall, life is good. I mean, it still hurts. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
It hurts.
I think it's always going to hurt.
Yeah, it's the what ifs that bother me.
Yeah.
You know, never know what I could have been. I mean, I also understand something bad could have happened. I'm not, naive.
But you didn't get the chance.
Yeah. Like, just think, from 18 to 27, how, a lot can happen in that time frame.
Mm-hmm.
You know how much the world changes, in 1 year, but you're talking about 8.5 years. You riding around town looking at stuff and like the building was there, is gone.
Mm-hmm.
The house you probably stayed in is gone.
Yeah.
Everything is different in 8.5 years. So, like I said, that reality of like, what now?
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I stayed with my mother for a year. Once I moved out, I actually worked 3 jobs at one time. I was determined, so I was just working. And I didn't have no major responsibilities of mate or kid, so it would just work for me. Because I wanted to make sure that, I had resources, make sure that I didn't put myself in no situation to get in another situation like that again.
Mm-hmm. But now you are married and you do have a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I kind of want to bring it all kind of full picture now to where you're at with your life now. And, one of the things that you said towards the beginning of the podcast was, I wish I would have known some of the things about how to deal with the police or, how to deal with court system, lawyers, all that kind of stuff. And, now you have dealt with it and you have your own kid, and she's only 3, but she's going to be older, and, you might have other kids in the family who are going to be young men or cousins or brothers or who, whatever's going to happen. Like, what are the things that you wish you knew then that now that you're going to have to pass on to your next generation?
The main thing would be don't talk without a lawyer. I don't care if you're totally innocent, just don't do it. Because looking back, they actually used something. Like I said, I couldn't remember where I was at the night of the incident. So after I left the interview, or interrogation, not an interview, me and my mother was talking, and couldn't find out I was actually under punishment, so I was home. Because after I graduated, when I got the car, I stayed out past curfew, so they took the car from me. But I could have still left, but, I was like, I can't drive my car, so I'm not going anywhere. So I was home when it actually happened. So not knowing, I called them and like, hey, talking to my mama, I was home. So going through the court system, they flipped it against me and was trying to, say I was lying and all of that type of stuff. So the main thing, just do not talk to them, like at all. Unless you have a lawyer, just don't talk to them, because they're going to try to use it against you somehow, some way. I know they tell you that, but if you don't know, you don't know. Yeah. But now that I know, don't talk to them.
Especially when you're such an emotionally tense situation where you're scared, you don't know what's going on. Like, you're not thinking straight.
Yeah, not at all.
When stuff like that's happening. And it's like, you don't, like you say, I don't remember that happened, because your mind is going crazy.
Yeah, and to be honest, like, most people don't remember what they did yesterday almost.
Well, I'm guilty of that too.
But you talking about at the time something that probably happened, I think, like 2-3 weeks ago, and you want me to know exactly what I did 3 weeks ago at 8:00 p.m.?
Mm-hmm.
Like, most people can't answer that question. Mm-hmm. And so it usually happens after you have a conversation with somebody else, and you could, string up the events, and then you'd be like, oh, okay, I was here. Mm-hmm. But just like off the fly, like, most people can't answer that question. I mean, we see it all the time on, like the YouTube channel, when people just walk up to you and ask you random questions like, where the Boston Tea Party? And they answer New York. It's a spot on question, because you're not prepared to answer the question. And I just couldn't think about that. So like I said, that would be the main thing. Do not talk to them.
And my other question was too, you mentioned like never going back, don't want to do that. And
not at all.
With all the racial issues that have come up, and the tragedies, and Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd, and man, it's really tense right now. And there's a big focus on police, and especially black young men, right where you were. Like, for you not wanting to go back, like, are there things that you fear right now, even the way our society is now and in our community, and things that you're just like, man, I have to stay away from? I still have fear that even if I do everything correctly, I could be accused of something I was innocent of again.
Yeah. Overall, there's no fear, because I don't want to sound too far away from the point, but I don't live that lifestyle. So I don't fear in a sense, but I know how the system is set up. So the fear is there in that sense. And when you look at just what's going on around, I mean, it hurts because it brings back what happened to me. And I know I didn't die physically, but I died in another sense because my life was almost taken from me. You know, I had to totally regroup at a later age. You know, most people, you know, you get a chance to live your whole life, and I couldn't start living my life until I was 27 just because of something that I didn't do. So it's real hard looking at what's going on now, but it's a reality because it's been going on and going through the system. You hear all these stories of pretty much the same thing. They might not be totally innocent, but the sentence doesn't fit the crime. And you look and see, you know, white counterparts get far less time than, you know, a black person for the same thing. And you see it all the time in there because, you know, everybody talks about their charges, their time. And, you know, such and such got 1 year, and probably a white person and a black person got 5 years or more for the same thing, first offense. And that's the other thing about it. That was my first offense. Never been in trouble before or nothing. And the only offer to me was 10 years. So it hurts just to see it. Because like I said, it just stirs up so much emotion just from what I went through. And I mean, I always ask myself what I could do. I mean, I have went back, but not in a bad way. I have went back to one of the prisons I was at to minister to them, you know, to let them see that there is hope. So I went back, but I don't know, like, I want to help, but I don't actually know how to help. I mean, I know one of the things I would like to help on is prison reform. And not necessarily prison reform, but possibly having some type of foundation for when they come home. Because I think that's what helped me make it. I had a support system. And a lot of convicts, felons, or whatever you want to call them, doesn't have that. And that's what leads to them going back. And also, right now, you see every corporation jumping on the Black Lives Matter movement and saying, you know, they're against systematic oppression.
No, do something about it.
Hire convicted felons.
Yeah.
And I ran into that situation at a major hotel here. They flat out told me no because of that. And if it wasn't for two of my friends, my support system who worked at the hotel at the time, I wouldn't have got the job. They spoke up for me and told them, you know, what type of person I was. And they talked to like their managers, and they had a good relationship with their managers. So their managers pretty much spoke up for me, and that's how I got the job. But overall, they wasn't going to hire me just over the fact that I was a convicted felon. So, you know, to the major corporations right now saying that, you know, they're against it, that is one of the problems that keeps it going. Because if you can't get a job, I know you shouldn't do it, but you don't almost have a choice but to go back to, say, if you're a drug dealer selling drugs, because you know that's a way to make money. If I can't make it legally, I have to go back to making it illegally. It's not right, but that's the situation that they're put in. Or, you know, if they're a robber, whatever the case is. So that's something that definitely needs to change. Like, you know, hire convicted felons, give them a chance. Not all of them are bad. Even the ones who actually did a, you know, crime, they still need a chance to turn around. They can't turn around if you don't give them a chance. So that's one of the main things that need to happen.
That's well said. And, you know, one of the other things I do want to backtrack to, and doesn't have to be all about the prison life there for you, but it was like you mentioned you met your dad at 33.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure we got that before we ended the podcast, what that was like and how that came about.
I worked in auto detailing. So I walked into a dealership one day, and the guy immediately called out his name and said, "You look like him. You got to be his son." And being that I never spoke to him and honestly didn't really know his whole name because it just wasn't something that I was caught up on. I'm not the type of person that, you know, get caught up on hang-ups and, like if you dealt a bad hand, like just do the best you can. So it wasn't something that I was caught up on. So it wasn't like I'm seeking after him or nothing like that. So when he actually said it, I was like, no, I'm not. Like, that's not my daddy. And so I went home to my mama like, hey, mama, somebody asked me, and she was like, yeah, that's his name. So I always told myself, like, the next time I see him, I ask him about it. And I saw him a couple of times and never asked him. So one day I finally like, hey, you remember when you sang? He's like, yeah, man, you look just like him. I got his mama number, man. We grew up together. So he called his mama, which was my grandma. So I talked to her on the phone. And it was, can't remember exactly when it was, but it was close to Thanksgiving, because that's actually when I met him, was on Thanksgiving, because he stays in Augusta now. So he moved. I mean, he came down here on Thanksgiving, to see his mama and all that. So I went over there and met him. So I met him Thanksgiving in 2013, I believe. And
wow.
Yeah, for the first time, 33 years old.
What's that like, man?
I mean, we talk here and there. I mean, that's something we both need to do better at. And
yeah,
my excuse is just that it wasn't something that I'm used to. It wasn't something that I actually missed.
Right.
I know it's something that I need, but since I never really missed it, I'm sure I did subconsciously, but just not consciously. So it's not like I'd be chasing after him or anything like that. But, when we talk, everything is fine. But
you didn't go into it with like frustrations and why this or anything. It was just like, okay, let's see what happens.
Yeah, it's just a see what happens, take it day by day type thing. And like I said, we reach out to each other here and there, and we talk for a minute, and then it probably be a couple of months again before we talk to each other again. But I mean, I guess the relationship is alright. I mean, it's no ill will to me. I mean, he made his decision, and based off of whatever he thought was best for him, I assume. Yeah. I mean, I know the story, but I never really asked him, like, man, why did you, pretty much not take care of me? Never really asked him that. I mean, for one, it's too late. I mean, it ain't gonna change nothing, so there's no point in asking on that. So we just talk, like, everything cool. I mean, we say I love yous, and, and everything's fine. But I will say, like, I guess it does bother me because, like, there's no way possible that I'm going to be out of my daughter's life. No way. And I think that's probably one of the driving forces behind it, now that I think about it. So, yeah, she would not grow up without her daddy. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to hear you talk about family and all this stuff, because you can see, like, the picture of your life and, like, what you went through, and just not having the dad, but not even thinking about it, to stuff you learned in prison, and where you came out of it, and your faith, and like your love for family, and just for trying to move on and make the best out of your life, and how that's really affecting where you are right now. And sounds like how your husband, dad, and what you do with church, but also trying to help other people who are in the same situation that you're in. And it's really easy to tell when somebody has a purpose after they go through something that's really crappy or tragic, or they couldn't control, and like whether that kind of dictates a purpose in the rest of their life, or else it just like tanks the rest of their life. And like, you're someone that has purpose in family and work and life now.
Yeah, I know I got work to do. Get stuck in trying to solidify myself, probably more so on a financial standpoint. So I just mainly just work all the time. But I do know that I need to get back active. I was trying to go back to the prison that I've been to, and wasn't able to get in contact with the same contact that I had. And so, but I need to do something else. I know I do, because I know overall people need to hear my story, just to know that even if you are convicted of that, it's still hope after that. Because there's no way I could really prove my innocence other than me just telling you. So to the world, I'm just a convicted felon. So it's still hope after that. And you just gotta wanna make it and get rid of that, the white man trying to hold me back mentality for us black brothers, and just overcome your odds, overcome, the obstacles and everything that was meant to hold you back. Use it to your advantage. Let it fuel you. Let it put that fire up under you, and just go, just run. And I know I have a purpose. I mean, I haven't totally figured it out, but I'm sure a part of it is just possibly talking to youth, or just people who've been through what I've been through, or even somebody who's just innocent, who just don't feel like life is fair.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah.
And you got a daughter that needs a good daddy, and that's you as well. So, I mean, that alone right there is a powerful purpose in itself. So
yeah, especially in today's time. I mean, because it's still a common thing that men, period, not just black men period, are absent in a lot of areas in life that they're needed in. And so,
well, that's kind of what I do for a living, is mentoring.
Yeah.
A lot of them are at risk, and even young men that have a father around, it's still not even necessarily a good situation.
Oh yeah.
And
I know that too, because my wife is a teacher, and hearing some of those stories.
Yeah, I know, man.
And like, you just sit and like scratch your head, you know, like, before I had a kid, I'm not gonna say I didn't care, but it just wasn't something that I guess I put care to, because I didn't have a kid.
Mm-hmm.
But after having a kid and you hearing those stories, you just be like how? Like, why? And I know it's hard for some people. It's not like an intent to necessarily appear to be a bad parent, but you just be just a head scratcher, and it's just sad hearing some of their stories. So mentors are definitely needed.
Yeah, I agree. Well, man, I appreciate your time. And, at the end of the podcast, we always just ask for a little bit of advice, kind of a challenge from our guests to the listeners, for somebody that has went through the experiences you have, especially with going to prison, being accused of something you didn't do, doing that time, and then having that affect such a big part of your life, a large part of your life. Excuse me. What is something that just an average person, myself, can do for someone like you that has went through something like that, either during the process of it or on the end of it when they're out? Like, how can they help? Because you've said, like, hey, they need help.
During the process, one of the main things is just not giving up on them, because that's one thing that hurts. Because how they did mail calls, they basically just called out your name. Because I was always in like open dorm, so basically just say 40, 50 people in the open dorm. So the officer just comes in there and be like, mail for Andre Murray, mail for, who, so and so and so. So when they're not calling your name, that hurts.
It's like you're forgotten.
Yeah. So one of the things is, don't forget about them. Don't give up on them. Even if they did it, even if they murdered 100 people, just don't give up on them, because I know they seemingly are bad, but it's still a good person inside of them, and they're still a human, so they still need some type of consolement, some type of support. So the main thing was just don't give up on them while they're in there. And once they come home, help them try to make it. Use your resources to get them established. Somebody that possibly can get them a job, because in this day and age, there's so many entrepreneurs. Call somebody, ask them, hey, can you use my uncle, daddy, friend, cousin, brother? Give them a job. And that's the start to everything. If you have a job, then you could begin to feel, like you're doing something, like you could at least take care of yourself. But if you can't take care of yourself, you're not even going to begin to take care of somebody else. So that's one of the big things. Offer them support and be there for them. That's the main thing. And that'll be the biggest challenge, stay on their side, because it's needed. It's very important.
Well, it's good advice, man. And I appreciate you. I think one of the most powerful things any of us have to use is our story.
Yeah.
And like, you have a powerful one. And so regardless of all the junk you had to go through, which, I'm sitting here and it frustrates me to no end, just hearing about it, like, it's still, like you said, you can use your story and your life for something still. You don't have to be stuck with what happened. And, I appreciate you giving us that story today, because I think it's going to be real impactful for people to hear.
Yeah. I have to, get out of my own way, because like I said, it still hurts. So I want to talk about it, but at the same time, I'm not going to say I'm scared to talk about it. I just don't want the pain to come.
Yeah.
So I have to get out of my own way and begin to tell it more. But I know I need to, though.
Oh, I know. It's easier said than done, though, man. I mean, if I went through all that, it's like if you don't know if people like really want to hear and they're receptive to it, that's a hard thing too. It's like you got to be able to share that in a safe place where you can't get rejected from it. You can't be like, oh, you know, you deserve this or this happened. Like it needs to be a safe place where like people want to hear it and not going to give you like PTSD from a bad experience from it. You know?
Yeah, I'm very selective of who I tell that story to. Very selective.
Well, I appreciate you selecting us to do it, and thanks, Quinn, for you know, hooking us up to be able to have this conversation. It was really meaningful for me personally. And so looking forward to just being friends and helping out our community in ways that we can do that all together. So
if you feel you need me on anything, give me a call. You got my number now. So
I do. You better watch out.
Hey, I don't mind. I try to tell anybody, you know, if you think, cause especially the people who know, if you feel you need me, you know, if you got your son, nephew, or anybody, I'll tell them. I mean, I'm not like trying to scare them or anything, but I'm just going to give them the reality of it. So, you know, part of your mentorship, if you feel my story can help anybody.
Absolutely.
Give me a call.
I do, and it's going to. So I appreciate it, man. Thanks for being here. And
thank you.
Quinn, thanks for producing for us. City Church, thanks for hosting. And yeah, man, it's been neglected, and hope you all have a good one, man. Peace.
Peace.